Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kav Taharian. Welcome back to the show.
Episode 21.
That was a fun episode. That was a fun episode last week. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was a good time. It was fun to see him. I loved his song. It was really crazy that he did that. I was surprised.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm hoping that it doesn't become too popular and people will demand that we change our theme song to that. But
I mean, I was already kind of going to ask.
Yeah, I was like, maybe.
Sometime down the road.
Yeah. Fine. Erase my work, Hannah. Typical. Erase my theme song contribution. Anyway, so welcome to the 21st episode. When you're listening to this is mid-June. We are getting ready for San Diego Comic-Con, which will probably be the only thing we're going to be thinking about for the next few weeks as we ramp up.
Lots to do.
Lots to do and still behind.
Yes, always. Still haven't sent off for anything. And it's getting closer. But, got to live on the edge or I won't do anything.
Yeah, we scrambled together at the last minute and it always works out somehow. Except for maybe this time. That's maybe always what keeps us going.
Maybe this time I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
And they're going to come around like day 2 and be like, get out of here. We have someone different for your table.
Yeah. There's a person here who really likes to draw dog portraits. So we think that this person should take your place.
Alternate universe Hannah.
Yeah.
Anna, who draws dog portraits. I'll fight her.
Anna,
I'll fight her to the death.
You'll fight everybody. Let's be real here.
No, I won't. Once I get into I'm like face to face with someone, I'll probably just be like, I'm sorry. Never mind.
No. Anyway, we have some fun stuff for you today. I'm really excited about my tab that I've been texting you, but not texting you about, being like, because we do try to keep it as truthful as we can, in which we really don't know until we start recording. But I'm excited to finally tell you about it. I'm bursting at the seams, but this week you're going to go first because you're a winner.
Oh, I won? Thank you. Okay, so my tab today is from SmithsonianMag.com. So I'm not going to say the title because I'll do it in a minute. But I'm going to tell you about the very first time the USA hosted the Olympic Games.
Oh, okay.
So this would be 1904. And all the bizarre events that took place at these Olympic Games. And now I didn't realize that this had been extensively covered on other podcasts until I typed it into Spotify. Here's more of this,
Was this like right before we started recording? You're like, oops.
I freaked out. So here's some more of it. I got to feed the podcast machine.
Our take will be funnier. It'll be less accurate. It'll be more deranged, less focused.
You're right. Or as somebody said, surreal. Everything I create somehow gets described as surreal. So I'm just going to lean into that.
Yeah, might as well. All the things that you go to for other podcasts and don't get, we also don't give you. We just give you something else that you don't want.
We just talk.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to recount this in a way that's new and fresh, but I'm probably not going to, but who cares? Thanks for listening anyway.
Your take will be wonderful. I look forward to it.
Okay. First of all, here's where it begins. So the title of the article is The 1904 Olympic Marathon May Have Been the Strangest Ever, written by Karen Abbott for Smithsonian Mag. So first of all, it's 1904, and so far the Olympics have come back from like ancient history. They used to do these games back in Greece like thousands of years ago. And this French dude named Pierre de Coubertin. Pierre? I'm just going to call him Pierre. But his last name is de Coubertin. Pierre. So Pierre was this French dude who was like, you know what we need? We need to play a bunch of sports again. So he started it up in 1894. And the first one was in Greece, and the second one was in France, his home. And the third one, the USA won the bid. So this was crazy for us because at this time we weren't like a world power. We were kind of like this kind of podunk nation who the Europeans kind of saw as like a little bit of podunk.
You're like, that's cute. We're like,
we're better than you. But we won the bid, and originally Chicago won it.
USA, USA.
So first of all, Chicago wanted to be the host, and they were like, yeah, okay. But then this French dude, Pierre, was like, no. I don't want Chicago to be the host. I want St. Louis to be the host because it's also going to be the World's Fair in St. Louis at the same time.
Beautiful. So, love it. Let's just make it as complicated and as logistically a nightmare as possible.
You've picked up on the first problem already. Yeah. So
also because the Chicago World's Fair went famously great and like everything was made perfectly and nobody died.
Electrocuting the elephant. Isn't that the one they did?
Serial killers.
The murders. Yeah. The murders. The missing women. Yeah. That wasn't good. They're trying it again. And this time in Louisiana. Not Louisiana. I'm so sorry.
Missouri.
Please forgive me. Missouri, but it's called the Louisiana Purchase Celebration. So they're celebrating 100 years of buying half of America for like a penny a mile or whatever it was.
All right.
Yeah, from the French, funnily enough.
I feel like I should start doing that in my day-to-day life, which is like, hey, I'm going to go to Sarah and be like, remember that one time I got a super discount on this book and it was like 75% off. And then I had a gift certificate and then I put it on top of this, this, and this. And I only got it for $5. Today's the anniversary of that. Let's go out. Yeah, we're going to party hard.
And I'm going to show everybody what a good discount finder I am.
That's some real shit.
Grifter I am. So I didn't call us grifters. No. So they decided to combine these two things. We're like, okay, we'll have the fair and the Olympics in the same spot.
Perfect.
And they had games, right, at this fair, their own separate Olympic-ish kind of games, which made no sense. It was like, why are we adding more games? But these games were super racist, and they were called Anthropology Days, which is a nice way of saying a human zoo. And they,
dear Lord,
this World's Fair is so deeply problematic. Like every single aspect of it is white supremacist, pretty much. It's like, yeah. So I'm not going to go into that, but Pierre was like, ew, and pretty much. So
he had the good sense to know that it was gross.
He was grossed out by it. He said he remarked, he's like, wait till they see how good these athletes are, and it'll leave all the white men in the dust. And you know, from a white dude in 1904.
Respect.
Don't go thinking Pierre's a good guy, though. He's not. Okay. He's a giant jerk.
You keep doing this to me. You're just like, oh, you should root for this guy who's good. By the way, he was a horrible racist who like denied the Holocaust. And I'm like, wait, you gave me very little information to go off of.
I know. Well, you jumped on it, dude. You were like, yeah, but you're right. I did make you root for him. But yeah, he was against the human zoo, but he was kind of a jerk.
Wow, so brave.
So brave. The bare minimum of being against the human zoo. So like a few miles away, there's this human zoo at the fair going on while the Olympics is happening. Sorry, I'm not laughing. It's just horrific. America, you know? So Pierre was like, hey, this is where we're doing it. We're doing it in St. Louis, but I'm not going to do any of it. I'm just going to stay over here in France.
Oh, and perfect. Yeah, great.
Hire a bunch of people.
I'm not responsible for any of this, but you guys should. That's your problem.
That's literally what he did. He was like, uh-oh. Yeah. So
sounds like a studio executive. I hate him now.
100%. So he gave the job of organizing these Olympics to this dude named James Sullivan. And of course I didn't write anything else about him because I was too excited to get to the next part, which was
Jimmy.
Jimmy Sullivan. So he was excited. He was like, we're going to make this the best Olympics yet. And we're going to show the world that we're like one of those nations that French people can respect, you know, like put on some games. French will like us.
Man, speaking of what of a different time, can you imagine anyone in America being like, we're going to make America something that the French could be proud of? Dear Lord.
Yeah, no. At that point, they were still our like super allies from the Revolutionary War or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just such a strange conceit.
Because nowadays it's like, I don't care what the French think.
They're like, not even do I not care. I'm going to actively go out of my way to make the French upset of our existence. That's like an American symbol of like nationalism.
American, like USA, yeah.
Yeah. Racist against the French.
Racist against the French. Yep. Anyway, so he was excited to show the world that we had it, what it took. So they built this like beautiful Olympic stadium, like top-notch athletic centers and places for the people to live. There's like a village for them to live in. Anyway, it actually ended up like coming together really well. And people were like, dope, we're awesome, we're so good at this.
Good work, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy sounded like he was the one who had to do all the work.
Do not root for Jimmy yet.
Is there anyone I can root for in this story?
Yes, and you're going to meet him in a minute. And I just think you might find your new hero. So
okay, cool. All right.
I thought of us when I read about this guy. Anyway.
I love it. Is he also terrible at his job?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Great.
he forgets to eat, just like us. So
finally, someone relatable in these stories.
Just wait. So here's some things about the 1904 Olympics. This was the first time they ever introduced the gold, silver, bronze medal format. And it was the first time they introduced boxing. And they had a tug-of-war competition. So, like...
Bring that back.
Right? I actually do think they have that still.
Oh, okay.
And one guy, George Iser, won 6 gymnastics medals despite having a full wooden leg. So this dude was like a machine. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are some little highlights that I'm not including in the rest of the story, but I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Wooden leg gymnastics. That sounds crazy.
Right? Imagine that leg just flying off as you do like a... Then again, back then, the gymnastics were just like them rolling around or whatever.
That's true. It probably wasn't to the extent that it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Triple axel, double backflip over a horse and stuff. Yeah.
A real horse.
A real horse, yes.
Real horses. This stuff. Peg-legged man doing a backflip over a horse. Dude, I'd give him so many medals. That guy wins. All right. So the main event is the marathon. Which I know you probably know a little bit about the history of marathons, but they come from the legend of Phidippides, who was this Greek messenger who supposedly saw a Persian ship heading toward Athens, and he was like, "Oh shoot, I gotta go tell them."
Of course, Persians keep
it going.
Yeah, thanks, Greece. Thanks.
I'm gonna move right on. The Greeks had just beat the Persians in the Battle of Marathon. And this dude saw the Persians turning around and going toward Athens, and he was like, oh no, I gotta warn him. So he ran all the way there, warned them, and then died of exhaustion. But
oh no,
it's probably not true. If anything, they said that it was like at least just a messenger who ran all the way to Athens to deliver the news of the battle, the winning of the battle. So whatever was true, the marathon is 26 miles from Marathon to Athens, which is why marathons nowadays are 26 miles.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
so they run the length of the messenger, dude. All because of you guys. So
because of us.
In a way.
Yeah. So another thing you can thank the Persians for.
Yeah.
You're welcome. All those marathon runners. I don't see you people thanking Iran in any of your speeches.
Get up there next time you win a marathon.
It's true. Next time I run 26 miles.
Go thank Darius for what he did for this. Was it Darius or it was Darius, right? I can't remember.
Darius.
Is that how you say it? That's way cooler than Darius.
Continue. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the marathon. So this is the main event, and everyone is like stoked because they've made this whole track for it and like made this giant arena. So everyone fills this arena, and only 7 of the 12 nations.
Sorry.
What?
Now all I'm picturing is they open up the Persians that are in the human zoo and then throw them into the arena for like motivation for these people to start running away from them as fast as possible. They're like, no,
Persians are coming. They're just these 2 dudes like, what?
They're like, why were we in a cage? What do you want me to do?
Oh, and how we talked about like, if this were us back in time, what would we be doing? Sadly, I think that's what
that's what they would put me in to do. Yeah,
and I would just be, I don't know, a lady.
I think you're a witch is what we decided, basically. You would, every era you're burned at the stake is what we decided.
Even in 1904?
Even though witches had fallen out of fashion at that point, they'd be like...
It's still, yeah.
Still.
Like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd be like in an asylum or something. There it is.
Yeah, that's true.
So, by the way, only 12 nations showed up to these Olympics because no one could get there. There was this huge war.
They're like, a destination Olympics? Are you shitting me?
Seriously. The Europeans were like, oh.
I don't have money for this.
Well, they blamed it on the Russo-Japanese War. So Russia and Japan were fighting over Korea.
Yeah, how
and
convenient.
They were like,
that's not in America last I checked.
That's what I was going to say. They're like, ooh, we can't get over there. Oh, it's really backed up from all the war.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was.
I gotta go to work.
Fighting Korea. Yeah. So no one really came. Only 8 European nations came. And then Cuba and South Africa. Oh, no. And the USA. And there was one more, and I hate that I forgot it. Great. I'll get there.
Persia.
We'll figure it out.
Iran.
Iran, which was called Iran at the time.
Still Iran. No, I don't think. Yeah,
it was Persia, right?
It's still Persia. I'm trying to remember the exact year where they switched it over.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Those are the nations. And out of the 12 nations that came to the games, only 7 of them competed in the marathon. So a bunch of them were Americans, and there were 32 athletes total at the starting line. A bunch of these guys were experienced runners. Like, a few of them had competed in the Boston Marathon, which I guess is old. I had no idea.
Damn, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, and they had won. And at that point, it was like really like, ooh, he won the Boston Marathon. That's like the top thing. And so there were some really good runners there from the American side. But there were also 10 Greeks there who had never run a marathon in their life. Not a single. Not only that, 2 men from the South Africa exhibit decided to compete. And so these 2 dudes were from a tribe in South Africa called the Tswana tribe. And they were over in the exhibit, like
in the zoo?
Human. Yes. And they were like, we're going to compete. So they show up, these 2 awesome dudes, and one of them doesn't have...
Real quick, are they volunteering to be in the zoo at that point?
It was more like a freak show setup, where it's like, look at these people in their native clothes, and they get to their native sports. It was like, look at these people of the world, but it ended up being really icky. Like,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So these 2 guys from the South Africa exhibit from the Tswana tribe, Len Tauyani and Jan... I think it's pronounced Jan, because Jan Mashiani. So these 2 guys show up. They're like, we're running too. And one of them has shoes. And Len is like, I don't need shoes. Screw shoes. And everyone's like, all right, whatever. And these 2 dudes had been messenger runners in the Boer War, like in the last 10 years. So they were super, super like capable and extremely good runners.
They were literal marathon runners, like from the actual origins of the word.
Yes, they were message runners in a war. So they were like, yeah, I don't need shoes. Screw you. Also, let's do this.
Respect.
Why not? And
Can I like these guys, or is this going to turn out to be a terrible? Okay, good. No, I'm going to root for them now.
You can like from now on. You can semi to mostly love everybody.
Good.
Everyone's good from now on, except for the organizers. I'll give you permission. So these 2 dudes become the first black South Africans and black people to ever compete in the Olympic Games.
All right.
Yeah. So they had no idea.
Although they're from South Africa, but
so that they got that honor without even realizing it. They just wanted to go run. Let me go over it again. There's those Boston Marathon runners. There's the 10 Greeks who had never run a marathon in their life. There's these 2 South African dudes, one with no shoes. There was a Cuban postman named Felix Carvajal who had raised the money to come to the U.S. to compete. And so, like, Cuba's like, we're not paying for you to go there. You're just some mailman. And he's like, but I can run real fast. And everyone donated money. And he ended up...
Good for him. Listen... I love my mailman. His name is Ross.
Oh,
Shout out to Ross. I know him. He's a good guy.
Mailmen are awesome.
They are.
I'm not laughing at the mail people part of it. I'm laughing because he only made it to New Orleans before he gambled all his money away.
Oh, no.
So our boy Felix doesn't think ahead.
Already love him.
He doesn't think ahead. He doesn't really plan. He kind of lives moment to moment. So he gets to New Orleans. He's like, yeah, why not? I'll put it all on this game of craps. And he loses everything. And he's like, well, shoot. How am I going to get to St. Louis? And so he starts hopping boxcars on trains and hitchhiking all the way to St. Louis. He's just this cool, sweet, nice guy who people genuinely like. So he gets to St. Louis and he is like, well, now I have nowhere to stay. So now what? And so he like goes and kind of walks around to the other athletes, and he's like, hey, makes friends with some of the like weightlifters, and like endears himself to them. And they're like, yeah, you can stay with us. You can have our food.
You're a good guy. Felix, come on in.
And he was like, oh, thank goodness. So there's Felix, and he shows up in street clothes, like normal shoes, normal clothes. And everyone's like, you can't run in wool pants, dude. And so they like give him cutoffs.
Oh no.
They cut his
He's like
pants.
a never nude, basically, and he's running.
He's Felix the Cuban never nude gets his
I love everybody in this race so much. I want them all to win.
You know, they kind of do. So, in their own ways. So Felix is like wearing these tattered pants that he's been wearing for like however long it took him to get there, and he's cut them to make them into shorts. And he's wearing just regular old shoes like that he's been in this whole time. There's Felix. So he's standing there ready, and this dude is, I'll send you pictures, he's hilarious. There's also this guy named Fred Lors, and he was like this, a working dude. He was a bricklayer who liked to run miles at night. Like he would just go
just clear his head
outside. And, liked to run and was pretty good at it. So Fred, and then there was all those other ones that were.
He's from the States?
He's from the States, yeah.
Okay.
So 32 athletes begin to run. They fire the pistol around 3:00, and they do 5 laps inside the Olympic Stadium. Then continue onto a dirt road through the countryside surrounding the city of St. Louis. So an early lead was Fred Lors, the bricklayer, and he was doing good. He had kept good pace, followed by this guy named Thomas Hicks. He was another American guy, but he wasn't like a professional runner. He was like a brass worker from Massachusetts. So there's these like working class dudes.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, problems began to show themselves.
No.
Problem number 1, it was the hottest part of the day in the hottest month of the year. So it was August at 3 p.m. The temperature was at 90 degrees.
Oh, humidity.
Humidity was like, I mean, you know how humidity is. It's like you feel like you're breathing
especially in
like
the South.
Water.
Ugh.
Oh, Missouri humidity is crazy. Problem number 2 is that one of those big Missouri storms that just passes through really quickly had washed the roads away. Had like washed out the roads. So they had to hurry and like redo the route. So it was like bumps and like cracks and debris from the storm. Problem number 3, a team of horses went first to like be the leaders of the race. And then
what, man versus horse? What is this?
Basketball, baby. Just kidding. I think of Nikola whenever I think of horses. So
Jokic was leading the race because he was chasing those horses because he was so excited.
He is a time traveler.
That's true. He is. He's from every era.
These horses start stomping, and the dust on the road is thick. And so as they start to go, that pushes dust into the air. So the dust was going into the faces of all 32 runners. And they were like, because it was like coating their throats. Problem number 4, there was nowhere to get water. I'm so glad you like this. There was nowhere to get water.
I'm loving this. Please don't ever end. Keep going. I never want this race to end.
I can tell you it is not even close to ending. So at mile 6, there's a little well. And at mile 12, there's some water. And that's it. Reminding you, marathons are 26 miles. So they were inhaling this dust and coughing violently as they ran because they had no water. So here's the crazy thing. Remember James Sullivan, the guy who took over from the French guy? Jimmy did this on purpose. He was he wanted to test the limits of human dehydration.
Is he being like sponsored by like Gatorade or something? Is there some sort of like
At the time, this was common.
Big Water is behind all of this.
Well, at the time, everyone's like, should we see what else we can figure out from this? From almost every event, there's some weird person being like, what if we did this? And James was like, what if we didn't give them
The CIA is part of this too.
So this psychopath is like, don't give them any water.
Do they know this? Do you know this information? Do they know as they're about to go on the race if they know that they're not going to get any water?
I couldn't figure it out if they knew, but I want to say they probably didn't. Problem number 5. The course went over 7 hills. So there were 7 different hills they had to run up. The last problem, well, no, not the last, but the next one is they didn't block off any traffic or roads.
Oh.
So these runners were like dodging wagons and horses and people walking their dogs and automobiles, just driving alongside them as they were trying to like weave in and out.
This sounds like it was hosted in LA the whole time, basically. That's what the LA Olympics are going to be here in like a couple of years, essentially.
That's right.
That.
They're coming there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the setting. So all these people are running. And mile 9 is when people started dropping out because they were like, no way.
I need water.
The first person to drop out was our blue collar worker, Fred Lors, the one who was leading, because he got a severe stomach cramp and had to stop.
No.
Like, he was like doubled over, and he ended up like hitching a ride from one of the cars nearby and being like, can you just drive me back to the stadium, please? And so Fred Lors gets on a car and just waves to everybody as he drives back to the stadium. Then comes John Lorden. He was one of the former Boston Marathon winners, and he ingested so much dust that at mile 10, he violently vomited and would not stop, like couldn't stop.
Whoa.
So they were like,
it's all
you're
dirt
done.
Coming out?
Yes.
It's just throwing up dirt?
Yes.
Whoa.
My dream. Just kidding. Then...
Which creates more smoke. Yeah, more dirt and more dust in the air. Except now it's like mixed with bile.
Yeah, exactly. Ew. Oh. They called it a vomit attack. So, that's what they referred to it as
a vomit attack.
He had a vomit attack. Then at mile 14, American Sam Meller, another Boston Marathon winner, was in the lead at the time. But he got so disoriented from the dust that he was like, I don't know where I am. I have to be done. So they pull him out. Okay. Then comes William Garcia. And William, he's from California. Woo!
Oh, Bill.
He almost died. So he collapsed at around mile 16, unconscious, and was found bleeding from his mouth because he had breathed in so much dust that his stomach had hemorrhaged.
Jesus. This is awful.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's okay. He's dead now, but like,
sure,
he was okay at the time. He was treated in the nick of time. They were like, bro, if you had been on the ground any longer, you would have bled out.
Wow.
So he's out. And so slowly throughout this race, people are just dropping like flies. And they're starting to head back to the stadium. And everyone at the stadium is like, where is everybody? We've been sitting here for like an hour in the 90-degree heat in these stadium seats. We're so bored. We're so hot. We're so impatient. And they keep seeing these guys come back like bleeding and like disoriented. And everyone's just like losing it. While the stadium is like, where is everybody? It shouldn't take this long. Let's go back to what's happening on the track. So Felix the mailman, he was doing pretty good. He's a really good endurance runner. So he was, keeping pace. And then because our guy here, he does not think ahead, like I said, he realized he was so hungry because he hadn't eaten in 2 days. Just like you, every time we record the podcast. Halfway through, I'll see Kame's eyes go like blank. And I'm like, oh no.
And then I'm like, oh shit, it's 3:00. I forgot to eat today.
Well, you and Felix. So Felix is like so hungry. He's like outrageously hungry. And so he's like searching for food on the route. And he sees these people watching the race and they're eating peaches. And he's like, hey, can I have one of those peaches? And the guy's like, no, these are my peaches. What? And Felix like impishly, like playfully goes and just like takes them out of the guy's hand and runs away.
He's like, what are you going to do? Run in a marathon?
Right. He steals these peaches, eats them. And then he sees an apple orchard and he's like, dope, there's some apples. So he eats a bunch of apples, which give him a stomach ache.
He's a true immigrant. I can tell you this. This is something that every single everybody in my family would have done the exact same. My dad would have just been like, there's a bunch of like pears over here, or there's plums. I'm just going to go. My grandmother, everybody in my family would have done exactly this. I love this man.
That's what he did. He ate a bunch of apples and then took a nap. He laid down in the orchard, then he took a nap.
This guy just living a charmed life.
Oh, I know. Everything just happens. It just ends up great for him. Some say he took a nap because he ate a bunch of rotten apples, but that was that story is contested. I know he did take a nap and eat some peaches.
Yeah.
So Felix is napping, and while Felix is napping, Len, the barefoot South African guy, is also doing great. And then out of the blue, a wild dog starts chasing him.
More motivation.
It chases him a mile out of the way. He could not get this dog. He could not get this dog
yelled really loud.
to leave him alone. And he was just like, what the heck? Barefoot, running from this wild, insane dog for an entire mile. Probably.
I'm sure that's what it was.
I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're 100% right.
I'm sure that's what it was, yeah.
Well, he escaped the dog and got back on track, but he was then pushed back to like 9th place.
That sucks.
I know. So Thomas Hicks, he's the brass worker from Massachusetts.
Right.
He's like, I don't feel good. And he was like begging his team for water. He's like, please find me water. And they're like, we don't have any. We only have this like little bit of like warm water. We're just going to dab the inside of your mouth. So they sponge water into his mouth while he like begs for more. And he keeps going, which that sounds horrible.
Sponge water,
point, a bunch of people more drop out. And at this point, there's only 14 people left in the race.
Okay.
The race is almost over. Thomas Hicks, sponge mouth, is at this point, he's 7 miles from the finish line. And he is delirious. He's dehydrated. He's exhausted. And his team's like, we got to give him a boost. And so they give him a small dose of strychnine.
What's strychnine?
Rat poison. And
to boost him?
Apparently, small doses of rat poison can give you a boost. Like it's like a stimulant. And so they give him rat poison, strychnine.
If you're listening to this podcast and you know why, please write us in and explain to us why rat poison gives you a boost. Sorry, continue.
So, this becomes the very first instance of doping in an Olympic game.
Oh.
It's with rat poison. And so Thomas is like high on rat poison, and they give him some brandy to wash it down. They're like, here's some brandy.
This is the most 1900, like the year 1900 Olympics I've ever heard. This is incredible.
So he washes the rat poison down with brandy, and he's doped up, and he's like barely lucid, but he's still running. And Thomas is like, yeah, I could do this. And then around mile 3 miles to the
3
end,
miles out,
one of Thomas's guys that gave him the strychnine look over, and he sees a broken down car on the road. And in that car is Fred Lors, that guy who got cramps at the very beginning and hitched a ride. And the people who picked him up, their car broke down. And Fred has gotten out of the car and continued the race. So Fred is refreshed. Yeah, Fred's refreshed, and he just zips past, and they're like, what the heck? And so they're pissed. Thomas is barely even there. So they're like, well, we got to go tell them that he cheated. But they're trying to help Thomas because he's, doped up on rat poison still. And
and brandy.
So during all this time, the crowd is still just like, we need something to see. And finally, on the horizon, they see a guy. And they're like, yes, this marathon is over. Whoever that is, they're so excited. They're pumped. And in comes Fred Lors. And he runs across the finish line. And everyone cheers. So they're like, yeah. And Alice Roosevelt, the president's daughter, was there. And she goes and puts a crown on his head or whatever, like the wreath. And then goes to put the medal on.
The medal,
and Fred's just going with it. And then everyone's like, no, he's faking it. He's an imposter. Like, everyone catches up, and they're like, he cheated. He drove a car for 11 miles of this race. And,
listen, work smarter, not harder. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and Fred was like, well, it was just a joke. I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to take the medal. I was just seeing how far I could go.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, you're banished from any Olympic game.
Oh, no.
So he gets disqualified. And Thomas, strychnine man, he hears about this, and it gives him a boost. And he's in second place, and he's like, I'm going to do this. And so
What do we always say? Rage. Rage
100%.
is the best motivator.
I really think that was what it was, because he was like, yes. And so he summoned what little strength was left, and he forced himself back into a jog. And after a little bit, it's like 2 more miles, and he's like, he's flagging again. He's like, I don't think I can do this. Please don't make me do this. And his team's like, here's some more strychnine.
More rat poison.
They give him more strychnine. They give him more strychnine and egg whites and have him wash it down with some more brandy. They also soaked him in water because he was like,
oh, he had water at least.
Like wake him up. Yeah. So like woke him up a little bit, and it says, here's the quote. Over the last 2 miles of the road, Hicks was running mechanically, like a well-oiled piece of machinery. His eyes were dull, lusterless, and the ashen color of his face and skin had deepened. His arms appeared as weights well tied down. He could scarcely lift his legs, while his knees were almost stiff. So,
poor guy. Jesus.
1 more mile to the finish line, and Thomas begins to hallucinate. So he suddenly thinks that he's back at the beginning of the race and that he has 20 more miles, and he's freaking out. He was like, I can't do it. There's no way I could do this.
This is like you halfway through every episode after you finished your tab.
So he's like, there's no way I can do this. And he started begging to lay down. He's like, I just want to sleep. Please let me just
I just want to be buried in the ground.
I'm Thomas and you're Felix.
Yeah, he's like, bury me in the bog.
Throw me in the bog.
Throw me in the bog.
They gave him some more brandy and egg whites, but no more strychnine because 3 doses is enough to kill someone. It's enough to make him super sick. So by the time he neared the finish line, he was barely shuffling, completely delusional, completely hallucinating, hopped up on rat poison and brandy and eggs, and his 2 handlers were like, he almost didn't make it. They picked him up by the arms and carried him over while he moved his legs like he was running.
Oh my God. He's like they Weekend at Bernie's him.
Yes. They Weekend at Bernie's him, and he thinks he's still running on the ground. So he collapsed immediately, finished his marathon at 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 53 seconds, the slowest Olympic marathon on record. Doctors were on him, reviving him, and they were like, we're actually kind of worried about this dude. Not only is he like dehydrated, he's also full of strychnine.
Hopped up on rat poison.
Yeah. He had lost 8 pounds during the race.
Whoa. Yeah. So that's the secret.
Yes. Just strychnine and running.
Rat poison and brandy, and then run 26 miles in 3 hours.
I think we know what we're going to do after Comic-Con.
That's a new Hollywood fad. You don't need Ozempic. You just need to eat rat poison.
You need to come
Do
to
not
death's
eat rat
door.
poison, by the way, people.
Yeah, by the way, I don't think we should have to say this, but you shouldn't eat rat poison.
No, you do have to say this now online.
Yeah, like, you will die.
Yes. This is a joke?
They don't sell strychnine in the stores anymore. It's like a highly controlled.
Because of woke. Sorry, continue.
There it is. Ding, ding, ding. He was revived. He was revived and declared the winner and crowned by Alice Roosevelt, who was like, finally, an actual guy. Felix, the guy who took a nap, he came in 4th. He made it to 4th place. Len, the guy who was chased by dogs, came in 9th, but he probably would have placed in the top 3 had that dog not chased him. Because he was good. He's good.
Yeah.
After the race, everyone's like, we can't ever have this happen again. Let's just get rid of the marathon. And they almost completely got rid of it from...
I like how the solution was, let's get rid of the marathon, not let's let people run 26 miles in a pout of dust with no water and then actively like make it harder for them at every turn. Yeah, no, we shouldn't do that.
This picture of Thomas sitting in a car right after the race, he looks like a skeleton. Like, he's wearing a sash and he just has like this 1,000-yard stare. I'll post a picture. It's pretty funny. Looks dead inside. Anyway, so after that, everyone was like, those Olympics were insane. And that kind of overshadowed the rest of the games because the rest of the games went pretty good. Like, there was some really cool stuff happening. And Pierre was like, yeah, that was all St. Louis's fault. Then, like, wrote a big book about how they botched it when really it was totally him. And so that's the 1904 marathon from the Summer Olympics. Isn't that nuts?
Wow. Yes. Continue.
Felix ended up disappearing. Disappearing overseas. Declared dead, and then he showed up again.
Of course he did.
Yeah, being like, I
bet you he's still alive somewhere right now. Just
he's immortal. But yeah, so there you go. I never know how to end these.
Oh my God. Yeah, I gotta. Wow, that might be my favorite one that you've done so far in the show. That was great. Yes, that's
crazy.
That was fantastic. Yeah. Oh my God, that was so ridiculous.
Isn't that insane?
Oh.
It's just like a comedy of errors, like vomit attacks, some dude taking strychnine and like chugging brandy, someone stealing peaches.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that even if other people have covered this, I feel like yours was probably funnier than the rest of them. I'm saying that with a sample of 0.
Thank
you.
In
my heart, I know that yours was, no one would have told it the way that you did. That was really funny.
Really nice of you. Thanks.
I really enjoyed that. That was really funny.
I got super into this one.
I can tell.
I almost did like a one just on Felix and then to lead up to 1904. But then I was like, there isn't that much about Felix that can make an episode. But yeah, Felix is insane.
Felix will be a person that we'll come back to. I think he's going to be part of our lore now of people that we love.
Yeah. Felix.
What's his last name again?
I couldn't remember it, so I just kept calling him Felix the Cuban Mailman throughout all of this, which was way longer than his
Felix
the
Cuban Mailman. That's all we need to know.
Carvajal.
Felix Carvajal, we salute you in your adventure. Can you imagine the adventures that man was on? And like I want to read like an autobiography of him, like all the random stories that he's experienced in his life. Because this one alone was like, yeah, and then I was a mailman, and then the government wouldn't pay for me to go to the Olympics, so I raised all this money and then lost it all in the gamble, and then I had to New Orleans, so I had to jump on a bunch of boxcars, and then I slept on the floor of these weightlifters, and then I ran this marathon where everyone's vomiting, and then I got hungry, so I stole a peach and then passed out under an apple tree, and then I came in 4th somehow,
while wearing regular shoes.
Yeah, we're wearing regular shoes and cutoffs.
So here's what I was going to say. He actually was selected to represent Cuba in the next Olympics.
Oh.
And he went, and it was at in Athens. And
nice.
So they paid for it, but he never arrived in Athens. So everyone's like, he's dead. And his obituary was published in Cuban newspapers. And then he later showed up in Havana.
He's just like, oh yeah, I missed the boat like 6 years ago. I just went back to being a mailman and no one seemed to notice.
Yeah, I wonder if he just like got a job on the boat.
I'm sure he just did some 100%. Other adventure. Amazing. Hello, friends. Would you like to help Hannah and I? All you have to do is go to nebula.tv/500opentabs and sign up for Nebula, where they have exclusives like David Lean Queer Subtext by Maggie Mayfish. In this video, Maggie explores the work of David Lean, who wasn't gay himself, but wove queer themes throughout his filmography. From his early work with the gay writer Noel Coward on Brief Encounter, to the homoerotic subtext of Lawrence of Arabia, Lean's films offer rich subtext and sometimes explored some progressive ideas that were unexpected for the time. I myself am a huge fan of Lean's work, particularly Lawrence of Arabia, which I consider what you kids today would call one of the GOATs, despite it being a film filled with camels. Unless camel is a cool young person acronym that I am unaware of. Cool, absolutely, miraculously, extremely, legit? I don't know. I guess it's time for me to sign up for my AARP card. You can find this video and dozens of other high production originals on Nebula, a video streaming platform built by and for creators. And of course, I'm contractually obligated to tell you that subscribers get a special feed to listen to this show ad-free. Go to nebula.tv/500opentabs and get 40% off an annual subscription. By signing up, you can support other creators like Lindsay Ellis, Princess Weeks, and many more. Remember, sign up at nebula.tv/500opentabs and help us become the camels of the podcast world.
Anyway, he died in poverty. That's sad. Oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. Great.
I mean, technically, he was in poverty this whole story, really.
Yeah, you wouldn't die in poverty if you were Felix.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, your turn. What tab? Show me your tab.
Okay, I will show you my tab. That was awesome. Thank you again. Mine is also a little bit of an old-timey one. And this is a fun one, and I think you're really going to like it. And it was a lot of random stuff to sift through, but it's a fun story. So my original tab is from the Library of Congress blog.
Oh, they have a blog?
I didn't know that until I found this.
Wow.
And the title of it is Belief, Legend, and the Great Moon Hoax.
Wow.
Have you heard of this?
Moon landing hoax?
No.
Oh,
this is
no.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
Like the moon's not real?
No. You're going to love this.
I'm fixated on the moon. Okay.
This is the little blurb. So it says, during the week of August 25th, 1835, the world was treated to a fantastic story of scientific discoveries by the famous British astronomer Sir John Herschel. He had realized the speculations of his father, astronomer Sir William Herschel, as he discovered life on the moon, or so the readers of the New York Sun were told in a series of articles now known as the Great Moon Hoax.
Oh, this is cool. Okay.
Yep.
This kind of reminds me of that the War of the Worlds.
Yes,
broadcast.
That's actually a big reference point for this, where people were like, it's kind of like the same idea, but it happened like 100 years earlier.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So
love this kind of stuff. I've never heard of this. This is exciting.
I had never heard of this either. I was really excited. There's a lot of there's so much stuff that happens around it, which is really interesting. It's like it's like a first event in so many different ways. So I'll explain all of it. I'll give all the context. I'll get into what the stories are and all that, and we're gonna have fun with it. So
okay.
Back in 1835, things were a little different, as you might imagine. But just to set the stage, here's some fun facts of stuff that happened that year. So first off, our boy Samuel Longhorn Clemens, aka Mark Twain, is born.
Oh, whoa!
That's how long ago this is. Yeah, as is Andrew Carnegie.
Oh,
so it's a time of great pioneers. And speaking of pioneers, a man named Richard Lawrence pioneers the failed presidential assassination industry by trying to kill President Andrew Jackson and failing.
Oh, he failed.
He failed.
He failed.
Bummer.
He failed.
This was the very first assassination attempt against a president of these United States. So Richard Lawrence.
First failed too.
Pioneer, yeah. And the Toledo
That's an
War
American tradition. That is an American tradition.
And then the Toledo War between the state of Ohio and the Michigan Territory erupts over the city of Toledo and the Toledo Strip, which, if you know anybody from Michigan, a lot of them are very anti-Ohio. So I guess this is sort of where it starts. I thought that was interesting.
Is Sarah
anti-Ohio? No, Sarah's pretty friendly. But I do know plenty of Sarah's friends who are from Michigan who are very like, Ohio. I don't mess with Ohio people. It's the whole thing. I don't understand it, but I think it might be, I guess, this war that goes back to 1835. Yeah. So speaking of our boy, Marky Mark, do you remember the event that famously connects his birth and death? Mark Twain.
Oh, I was like, Marky Mark
and the Funky Bunch.
Just like zoom forward. I'm confused.
He was breakdancing back in 1835. Oh, yeah. It was great. No, but do you remember the event that connects the birth and death of...
Isn't it the comet?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So in 1835, Haley was making her...
This is my century. I love this. I love the 1800s.
So, she's doing her trip of every 75 years to visit planet Earth and to wave hello at us mere mortals. And she continues to explore the depths of space.
Good for her.
Since I know your ass is probably going to stop paying attention right now and look this up.
Oh my gosh.
I will tell you right now.
The last
Haley's comet was in 1986 and will return in 2061. Yeah.
I was wondering. I was like, I should look that up later.
Yeah, 2061 is when it's coming back.
I don't know. I'll probably be dead.
Buried in the bog. So at this time, people were very excited because Haley's Comet was going to come back. I mean, they weren't rushing out to like buy Nike Decades or to like hitch a ride on it or anything, but they were like hooked on all the space stuff, and it was a big deal. So according to a lot of historians, at that time, astronomers were having a sort of capital M moment. If you were an astronomer, it was a big deal. Because in some ways, as the analog that they make is like, it's kind of like how priests were at the time, or not at that time, but previously. So a priest, before would have been like, well, I can read, and there's this book that has access to all this information, and I'm just going to tell you what is in this book. So a lot of astronomers
who knew how to...
whatever
they wanted.
Literally, yeah. So a lot of astronomers were like, okay, cool. We got these like telescopes and like star readings and all this stuff. And like religion in the mainstream was sort of having this revival.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. So they were kind of like,
it was like known as the burnt over era or whatever, where all of New York was like freaking out about religion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's where a ton of religions, came from. Everyone at the time was like really into weird like folk magic, but also being really into science at the same time.
Exactly. Yes, that's 100% correct. And all these astronomers, it was not, even though they were astronomers and they were, supposed men of science, they were like also very religious. And so to a lot of them, it was like that goes hand in hand. Why would God have made all these faraway heavenly bodies and not have like, a bunch of crazy animals and people living on them that worship God? And we're like, hey, God, awesome. Great job with Saturn. Like those rings, 10 out of 10 would bang. We love you.
If I had the choice, she would be the one.
Yeah.
Saturn. Yeah. Out of all of them, absolutely.
So one of these astronomers was this dude named Thomas Dick. I'm letting you laugh. Yes, exactly. So old Tom Dick, he was like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of his day.
Oh.
He made...
Sorry. So he was smug on Twitter.
He was smug on Twitter. He was very popular. A lot of people followed him and knew him. And he would make all these kind of weird ass claims. Most notably to this story, that the moon had something like 4 billion creatures living on it.
Oh.
And people were like, wow, he's wearing a nebula tie, so he must be telling the truth.
This guy has a telescope. He must know exactly what's on the moon.
He can't. Why would he lie? He's only telling the truth.
Yeah.
So at this time, the New York Sun had been founded just 2 years earlier in 1833. And they printed it on steam-powered printing presses, which was brand spanking new technology that just come out. Yes, it was. And as such, it was known as a penny press paper that appealed to a wider audience with a cheaper price and a more narrative style of journalism. And it was doing very well. Whereas before...
Those kind of newspapers have always been around, like just like the kind of cheaper, maybe more like, not accurate, or what?
I think at this point, I imagine it's something similar to what's happening now.
Okay.
Which is part of why I thought this story was interesting, is that like you have to the rate at which things were becoming published and to the degree of which they were being distributed all of a sudden got so big that they were just like, I don't know, whatever. Like, we'll just put all this stuff in there. Just go. There's no time for fact checking. It's fine. Whatever.
Got it.
And also, there's not people don't realize that like how much of journalism has changed since then in terms of like standards and fact checking, and you can't like just make stuff up. I mean, apparently you still can, because, a tech company will throw billions of dollars behind it to make sure it reaches the farthest possible audience in order to radicalize you so they can sell ads. However, that's a story for a different day.
Podcasting at the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
Very much so. So the owner of the Sun is this guy named Benjamin Day. And Benjamin Day is like this, he's like, bada bing, bada boom. If it bleeds, it leads. I got pages to fill. I got to find one of these like nerds who are writing long ass Tumblr posts, give them a job and put them in my paper. I got shit to sell. And so he hires this guy. His name is Richard Adams Locke.
Locke, Dick, and Day?
Locke, Dick, Day.
Great.
It's a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Locke, Dick, Day. It's Dick Adams Locke. I want to go so much further with that joke, but I will get derailed.
Good job.
Locke is this educated guy, and he's fresh from England. And he's like, he's like a Skeletor from Nacho Libre. Have you seen Nacho Libre?
Oh, duh. Sorry.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. He's just like, why are you always trying to baptize me? I believe in science.
I believe in science.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that character. I love that movie's so good.
Me too. He's all, I hate the orphans. So he only believes in science. He's like, I hate religion. Religion's whack. I'm not buying this crap from that Dick, Thomas Dick. This is just religion 2.0. You guys are out of your minds. Like, he's super anti. He's not into it. So that's the context of that guy as a writer. So now this is an important part. So in June of that same year in 1835, Edgar Allan Poe, famously, the guy who wrote
a lot
of stuff, Telltale Heart, The Raven, all that stuff. He had written a story in the Southern Literary Messenger titled Hands Fall a Tale. And it described the return of an explorer to his native Holland with stories of life and adventures on the moon. It was meant to be a satire, but Poe's sense of humor was apparently too noticeable, and it was quickly recognized as fiction by many of his readers.
Yeah, he wasn't known to be like complex.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like he's pretty heavy-handed, but in a good way.
Right. He wasn't cheeky enough essentially for it. And so people were just like, "Oh, bro, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you." Yeah. They're like, "Edgar, this is too goth. Like, you obviously it's yours. It's not like a real article written by yourself." Yeah. So the Southern Literary Messenger was a periodical of fact and fiction that had only been around for about 10 months at the time. So it didn't really have wide circulation. It was just starting up. He couldn't go viral, and people didn't really know about it that much. Now, there's no proof, but it's speculated that Locke, remember the writer, he was inspired by Poe's story and took that as a template and was like, "Oh, I'll do you one better." And he goes into full-on bullshitting terror driven purely out of spite. And
spite again?
It's spite again.
Oh, it does so much.
He does spite. Yeah, it's perfect. It's the motivator of our podcast and everything. Yeah. And so he starts pulling all this crap that random astronomers had claimed to discover or calculate, and he's just sitting behind his typewriter and he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. People on the moon, this, whatever, idiots, stars, God, whatever, blah 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 blah." And he just like goes at it, right? He's staying up all night, he's motivated, he's just driven. And he comes out and he writes this thing, and he bangs out what's simply titled Great Astronomical Discoveries Lately Made by John Herschel.
That's a long title.
All made up.
Once you got to the word lately, I was like, "Oh no,
lately more. Yeah,
lately, I'm over it." Like just Men in the Moon, keep it at that.
Men on the Moon would have been fun. Locke writes his story as a serialized set of articles released over the course of 6 days, and he doesn't just drop the whole season at once because he knew that wouldn't build community. So he's like, "You got to drip slowly." He's the old school network model, not the Netflix model, is what he does. You got to have people talk about it. You got to have people like get all excited.
The Moon Man story, you can't binge it.
No, you got to make sure that there's enough time for it to grow and bloom like a flower.
Yes,
you can't really get invested that way. So the articles were written as if reported by astronomer Dr. Andrew Grant, who Locke just
real?
made up. Nope.
Yeah, no, he's not real.
Made this up. It's just made up.
Do anything. You could say anything.
This is hilarious how insane this gets. So Locke was somebody he made up, and Dr. Grant was described as a colleague of someone who actually existed, who was Sir John Herschel, a famous astronomer of the day, which it looks like you knew that name, huh?
Yeah, I know who this guy is.
Yeah, so Herschel was real. And he had, in fact, traveled to Cape Town, South Africa in January of 1834 to set up an observatory with a powerful new telescope. So that was real. That actually happened. But of course, he was in England. So it's like he went from England to Cape Town, and this is 1834. Like you said earlier, like in 1904, people weren't like, getting information across the ocean like very quickly. So at this point, this is even worse. So
people wouldn't know you died for like weeks and weeks and weeks. Like
exactly. Yeah. But at that point, they had known that this is something that he did. So again, Locke is like, great, I'm going to lie. So I'm going to make up this story about...
I'll use one real name and I'll make up the rest.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So Dr. Grant is he basically catfishes everybody. So Dr. Grant is this made up person.
I would love to see a catfish show with everybody dressed up like they're in the 1830s.
This could be the basis for it.
Yeah.
So Dr. Grant in this story is basically like, "Yeah, bro, it was like sick. I totally went with him and I set up the telescope and we saw these like crazy things and it was like awesome." And that's basically the narrative of the story that he ends up writing over the course of 6 days. So
I love this. Okay.
Locke made sure to include many quotes from Herschel reporting discoveries made through close observation of the moon. Essentially, he's like, when you see those videos of someone like reacting to another video like on Instagram or like TikTok or any of that.
Yeah.
This is basically like the equivalent of that in the day where he's just like, "Oh, Locke said this and then now I'm writing about it." Or it's like a retweet or whatever when you quote tweet something.
We're the same.
It's all cyclical. So because it was rooted in this idea of truth of like what had actually happened, and it was a person who had made these discoveries who was famous, it was an easy thing to just be like, okay, I'm going to insert myself into this narrative. And then people were like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, totally. Additionally, this part I thought you'd really like. The article cited the Edinburgh Journal of Science, which had stopped publication years earlier as the source of the story.
That's smart, though. You do things just on the edge of false. You know what I mean? Where it's like right there in the weird gray area where no one really knows if they're still going or if that's still going or if this person even was around. I love, this is amazing.
And so again, so it's like, okay, well, Herschel's a real guy, and the Edinburgh Journal of Science was a real paper.
Right.
And so why would you not think that Dr. Grant was like a real guy? And on top of all of this, he wrote it in a style similar to the voice of John Herschel in terms of his writing, which, let me tell you, is just absolutely insufferable. It reads, it's so awful. I hate it. I was so angry reading it. And it reads like a college freshman trying to write a 500-word essay with like 2 sentences worth of ideas. It just rage. Just reading this was just rage. I was like, just say a sentence. I don't know what I'm reading. This doesn't make any sense.
It's just like fluff or like filler.
It just feels like filler, and it's very old timey. And it's like, it's just make an idea as complicated as possible with no substance to it.
I mean, the more fancy words you use, the more people are going to be like, this guy's real.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So exactly. So people were like, oh, we used a bunch of, $2 words. This guy is like a genius. Clearly, he's got a thesaurus. So this is all stuff that adds to why it ends up becoming so popular and widely accepted. They're like, okay, like I said, famous guy that's real, famous newspaper that actually exists, bunch of complicated words. Bada bing, bada boom.
Smart guy words. Yeah.
Smart guy words, being genius, smart stuff. And so let's see. Synergy. So the first part was published on Tuesday, August 25th, 1835. And in a stroke of luck, Halley's Comet was first spotted by U.S. astronomers on that very day.
Oh, he didn't plan that.
No. That is the kind of marketing you simply cannot buy.
You can't. Yeah. That's like, that's pure. That right there just solidified this entire story.
It was destined to be a huge deal. And so the story itself was broken up into sections, day by day by day. So I'm going to go through the different days.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So day 1 was dedicated to the journey and the construction of Herschel's telescope. Again, it's just awful writing, and it's a miracle that anyone just read this dog shit and was like, oh, I want to read more. I just cannot believe that somebody was like, I'll come back. The 2 sentences in, I wanted to die. Essentially, I mean, I can read like a section of it if you wanted. I
want you to.
Okay, let me go.
I need to hear you read this.
The first day, I'll read part of it so you can also be angry like me. Okay, let's see. I'll just start in the beginning. In this unusual addition to our journal, we have the happiness of making known to the British public and thence to the whole civilized world recent discoveries in astronomy which will build an imperishable monument to the age in which we live and confer upon the present generation of the human race a proud distinction through all future time. It has been poetically said that the stars of heaven are the hereditary regalia of man as the intellectual sovereign of the animal creation. He may now fold the zodiac around him with a loftier conscientiousness of his mental supremacy. It is possible to contemplate any great astronomical discovery without feelings closely allied to a sensation of awe, and nearly akin to those with which a departed spirit may be supposed to discover the realities of a future state. Bound by the irrevocable laws of nature to the globe on which we live, creatures close shut up in infinite expanse, it seems like acquiring a fearful supernatural power with any remote mysterious works of the Creator yield tribute to our curiosity.
Do it. I can't. That was horrible.
It just goes on and on.
That was nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There was not a sentence in there. It was just word. It was just word salad.
No, that was like a torture.
Yeah, and it goes on for 6 days.
Did you read through all of these?
Yes.
Oh, no wonder you were like, I've gone too far. In that text you sent me. You sent me a text. You're like, this is too much. I can't stop.
I can't deal with this. Well, because there's like summaries that people put, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to read the source if you can. And I was like, so I was reading the source. And I'm like, oh, I hate everyone.
Yep.
So
that was hard to hear.
Yeah, it's just.
Tell me what that means.
So what that means essentially in the summary of the first page was Herschel's dad, like I said, was a famous astronomer. Obviously, he discovered Uranus, your anus, and he had been working on.
That's who that was?
That's who it was. It was the guy that discovered your anus.
Oh.
It's a real guy. And he had been working. He had been working on some new telescope designs and whatnot, but he died. And since old Johnny was a Nepo baby and learned about telescopes like in the crib, he was like, yo, Dad, don't worry, hold my beer. And he figured out an even more like telescopic telescope, and it was big and fancy. The end. Whatever. Don't read this. This is terrible.
Their anus.
Yeah.
That was a stupid joke.
And that's more or less. It's basically like, oh, the moon, we discovered some stuff. It's going to be really important. And then here's the dude. Here's the structure of what this telescope is, and here's how it works. And people were like, wow, he used a lot of big words. It must be real.
And smart.
And I hate this man and everyone who read it. So day 2.
She's a sweeping judgment of every single.
I cannot warn you enough to not read this. Unless you're trying to get angry about something, in which case just read this.
I don't need anything to make me get angry.
Maybe if you're a boxer, I would read this before I had a match, so I could just take it all out on like Jake Paul or whoever I have to fight.
One of the Paul brothers.
Yeah. So on day 2, he's like, okay, they packed up all that shit from England and they sailed to Cape Town. And then he explains how a telescope is supposed to actually be like set up or whatever. But like, since Herschel's design was like so awesome and top secret, he was like, oh, I can't get into it. But straight up, me and my 4th form chums thought it was like quite corking. It was delightful.
So he pretty much said, I can't tell you what happened, but I promise it did happen.
Yeah. Scout's honor. Definitely a real thing. I'm just trying to protect copyright here, because if I give it away, then everyone's going to have a cool telescope and they'll be able to see this. And I can't do that to my homeboy Herschel. Got to be protective of it.
It's funny because like at the time, these like little pamphlets and newspapers were literally everywhere. Like everyone who had access to a printing press was like, I'm going to start a newsletter and I'll hand it out everywhere. And so I feel like, I wonder if people were just like, oh, another new religion. Oh, another little thing. And then they see this and they're like, there's people on the moon.
Yeah.
If it were me, I'd be like, this is actually standing out among all the other stuff I've seen, because someone's claiming there's people on the moon. Anyway, I'm just picturing what that would be like to just see so much stuff from so many people.
It's like podcasting. They're just like another podcast with 2 people talking.
One of them bearded.
Yeah. Another podcast about the 1904 Olympic marathon. Great.
There are so many.
Ours have moon people in this one, so maybe it will be the modern day equivalent of being interesting. So you're right. That's a good parallel. Again, that's also why I keep thinking this story is interesting. There's so many parallels to like what's happening now, specifically with the internet age, I think. And
like a glut of information, most of it false, and what people do with that.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
And so he sort of gets into the explanation of like, oh, we got to build it, and it was this expensive, and blah, blah, blah. We're in South Africa. It's fun, yada, yada. And eventually they finally piece together the telescope. And then they look inside. And so at first, what they describe is seeing a basaltic rock formations covered with red flowers that looked like poppies.
Oh.
So imagine, if you will, did you ever see Rear Window, the Hitchcock movie? It's the one with Jimmy Stewart where he breaks his leg and he's just like sitting looking through a telescope because he's bored. And he's just looking at all the apartments.
The Simpsons parodied that.
I've seen the Simpsons
one. I've only seen Simpsons parodies of everything.
That's basically what this is. So it's just, I mean, no one's got a broken leg, but they're just like, oh, cool. And then I saw this through the telescope, and then this and this and this. So it's just a bunch of reports about that. So first he sees a bunch of rocks and he sees poppies. Doesn't see anything else. Then he's like, and then we keep rocks and poppies. They're switching lenses in and out. Then he sees like weird trees and like a forest. So he's like, all right, cool. The moon is inhabitable like Earth because there's trees on there and poppies and there's, plant life.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is this, like, do you know at the time what people's understanding of the moon was? Was it kind of like one of those, like, weird mysteries? Or did people kind of know already that it was just a big rock? Dead rock in space?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly at this time. I think, if nothing else, the general public didn't really know.
Right. Okay.
I'd say that, like, I would, if I had to guess, I think maybe some scientists knew. I don't know. But
yeah.
The premise of this whole story is that, like, most people, Joe on the street didn't realize that was the case.
Right.
He sees trees, forest. Then he sees some water and deep blue oceans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, water, deep blue ocean. And I'm like, are you sure you don't have this thing, like, turned around and you're just, like, looking into continental Africa? But
ooh, there's some land for us to take.
Yeah.
Oh, we've already taken it. Dang it. Oh.
And then he sees eventually his first living creature, which is a herd of what he essentially describes as, like, moon bison. They're like bison, but on the moon.
Oh, I wonder what that was look like. What would a moon bison look like?
I could actually I figured you would basically go catatonic on the description of the moon bison.
No.
But if you want, I can pull it up.
I like how you're always assuming I'm one step away from being completely catatonic.
No. I just mean, like, based on how I read it earlier. Basically, that's like projection of, like, I went catatonic reading these things. So I was like, I don't want to read the description, but I should put you to sleep doing it. Let's see. Okay, so I'll do my best to. You can stop me at any point with this, so it doesn't get too. Because I also don't want people listening to, also want to die.
You don't?
Let's see.
Here's the thing we're gonna do. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Our podcast is gonna go until the year 2061, and when we'll still do it too, even if we're both senile.
In the bog. Yeah.
And when that comet comes around, us and all of our listeners are gonna hop right on it.
Oh my God, you're starting a cult finally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the description goes as such. So it says, small collections of trees of every imaginable kind were scattered about the whole of the luxuriant area and our magnifiers blessing. Blah, 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 blah. In the shade of the woods on the southeastern side, we beheld continuous herds of brown quadrupeds having all the external characteristics of the bison, but more diminutive than any species of the bos genus in our natural history. Its tail is like that of our Bos grunions, but in its semicircular horns, the hump on its shoulders, and the depths of its dewlap, and the length of its shaggy hair, it closely resembles the species to which I first compared it. Awful.
Dewlap? I don't know what a dewlap is, but it's,
I don't know what any of this
pretty
means.
much a mini bison, a tiny little moon bison. That's kind of cute.
It had, however, one widely distinctive feature, which we afterwards found common to nearly every lunar quadruped we have discovered, namely remarkable fleshy appendage over the eyes, crossing the whole breadth of the forehead and united to the ears.
So pretty much like a flesh eyebrow. Is that what I'm hearing?
Basically, yeah. We most distinctly perceived this hairy veil, which was shaped like the upper front outline of a cap known to the ladies as Mary Queen of Scots cap, lifted and lowered by means of the ears. It immediately occurred to the acute mind of Dr. Herschel that this was a providential contrivance to protect the eyes of the animal from the extremes of light and darkness of which all inhabitants of our side of the moon are periodically subjected. Please kill me.
That's skin flap to protect them against Earth's light.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's got like it's
sick.
Awful.
It's like bangs made of skin. I gotta
there you go.
Draw that.
Half a sentence. Bangs made of skin. We could have just said that.
I got some right here.
And then he saw a surprise fun new creature. It was of a bluish lead color about the size of a goat with a head and beard like him, and a single horn slightly inclined forward from the perpendicular. The female was destitute of horn and beard, but had a much longer tail. It was gregarious, chiefly abounded on the grounded, whatever, I don't care. Basically, he saw unicorns.
He saw unicorns.
He saw unicorns, moonicorns, moonicorns.
Except add a little flesh.
With a fleshy flesh eyebrow.
I cannot stop being fixated on the flesh eyebrow. It's I can't.
It's gonna be like this. Like,
how did you do that?
I have fleshy eyebrows. I'm from the moon.
Oh my! Look at you. Oh, there we go. Ow, that hurt. Owie. Okay.
Owie.
Okay.
And then he saw some moon cranes and pelicans. That's it. That's day 2. So
that's stupid.
I hate it so much.
So dumb. I love this story. Okay.
Day 3. Blah, blah, blah. More landscape crap. He sees a volcano and craters and shit. But then they see the first signs of intelligent life.
Oh.
Can you guess what they are?
Houses. No?
Who lives? Yeah, and I'm saying who lives in these houses?
Oh, people. Humans. Moon men.
Okay. They are...
Tell me. Just tell me.
Bipedal beavers. They are beavers that walk upright.
I never in a million years would I have guessed that. So they have the...
There's beaver people living on the moon, walking upright. And he takes essentially the old school model of National Geographic, like tribal people in the Amazon, but just swaps them out with beavers.
Oh, no.
And he's like, it carries its young in its arms like a human being and moves with an easy gliding motion. Its huts are constructed better and higher than those of many tribes of human savages. And from the appearance of smoke in nearly all of them, there is no doubt of its being acquainted with the use of fire.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That is
problematic.
That's bad. I want to meet a beaver person from the moon.
So don't forget at this time, and I'll get more into this. Okay, sorry. Let me keep going. So
yeah,
he's got the beaver people, and they were cool, and everybody's excited. But it's a teaser for the main event, which comes on day 4.
Okay.
Which the next entry would provide us with an even stranger creature.
Yeah.
The main event was the Vespertilio Homo, or more simply put, bat people on the moon.
Yeah, dude, I wish this were real. I want to see a bat person. So Batman.
Bat people on the moon. Batman on the moon.
Okay.
And because Locke made something that was so popular because it was serialized, I'm going to end this episode here and go to a part 2.
No. No. You told me this was going to be a 2-parter, but I forgot. And so you turd.
Yep. I'm sorry. Sorry I had to do it.
Bat people.
Bat people. Oh, and it gets weird.
Oh,
it gets great in every way that you would want it to.
I can't believe you.
That will I will go in depth into the rest of it and what the story is and some of the imagery and where it's pulled from. So I know that you're going to be tempted to go read everything based on the excerpts that I've given you, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to hold off for the next week.
I will. I also have like other things to do. So
yeah, lies. Neither do I.
Kidding. Wow. Oh, I'm excited. Again, I say this every time, but you're really good at cliffhangers. Pisses me off.
Thank you.
Because if it were me, I'd be like, okay, that's it. Bye. I have no like build up.
Okay. So now comes to the part of our episode where we're going to close our tabs.
Let's do it.
What do you think would be a good sound effect? I think it's going to have to be pulled from yours. Is it so? Like, you know what I think of actually right now based on what you were talking
vomiting? About? What?
No. Do you remember in Dumb and Dumber where they're giving the guy that's trying to kill them in the hot chicken place or whatever, the hot sandwich place, that he's like, I've got pills because I got gas, and then they give him rat poison by accident because he was trying to give them he was trying to poison their Shirley Temples. Vaguely. And then he makes the gargly sound where he's like, and it like gargles from his mouth. It's a very specific sound.
Okay, we do that. We're going to make the Dumb and Dumber gargling sound.
The Dumb and Dumber gargling death sound is what I think we should do when we close the tab. Yeah.
Okay. For rat poison.
It sounds like vinegar and like baking soda mixing and coming out.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that is specific reference works so well for this. Okay. Okay, you count us down.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Wow.
All right, moving on. Listener emails, you're up first.
Yeah, emails. I am up first. Okay, this is from Hector from Chile. So we got a
Chile.
Chilean. Yeah. And Hector says, Dear 500 Open Tabs, greetings from Chile. I'm a big fan of this podcast. I used to be a recovering tab addict with just a couple ones opened. And since I started listening to your podcast, I remembered my love for opening tabs to read random things. And now I'm over 200 in just a couple weeks.
We are enablers.
Thanks for feeding the monster you are trying to destroy. Sorry,
You know what, Hector? Don't deny yourself what you love.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anybody. It's just tabs. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's doing it. My tab for you is one of the few ones I kept open for some time now and comes with a short story. I am originally from Venezuela, and at Easter in one of the towns, there's a little tradition called Diablos Danzantes de Yare, which means dancing devils of Yare, that involve religion and people dancing with huge devil masks. Pretty normal stuff.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, I grew up knowing about this, and it was like a cultural thing. And then one day, many years later, I'm in this bar in Chile, and I see a huge devil mask-shaped cup, just like the ones they used. And I pointed to a friend. Hey, that's a mask they use at Easter in my country. And he says, what are you talking about? That's from here. I looked that up online, and boy, oh boy, turns out there's a whole lot of dancing devil rituals all across Latin America, each with his own ritual and tradition. I opened many tabs about it, and I finally sat and read them all thanks to you. It was great.
Yes.
You can see, these devil masks are dope looking. You can see this paper from an exposition at Ohio State University called Dancing with the Devils that tells you a brief story showing many of the masks and the traditions related across all countries. And there's some good links.
Whoa, these are awesome.
I know, right? If you're more interested,
like antlers on them and stuff.
Look for the specific celebrations in Wikipedia. There's tons more info.
Oh, man.
I wish you the best with this project. It's really great, Hector. Whoa.
Hector.
Oh, these are so cool.
These
I want to find
beautiful.
the Guatemalan one. Is there a Guatemalan one?
Whoa, this is awesome.
Whoa.
There's so many cool masks in here.
Yeah. I like how it's Easter. They do it on Easter.
This is awesome. Hector, wonderful, wonderful contribution. He's from Chile.
Thank you.
Which is very cool. We like Chile. As they say in Chile, vive Chile mierda is what they kept telling me to say when I was there.
What does that mean? I speak Spanish, actually. I know what that means.
Chile's, I mean, it's a swear word, but I guess that's what the locals say when they're talking about Chile being awesome.
Oh, you've been to Chile?
I've been to Chile, yeah. I went in 2006, I think.
Oh, cool.
I did a Chile and Peru trip, which was also controversial because the Chileans and the Peruvians apparently had a rivalry that I learned about when they were there. But I like both places very much.
Dude, nobody likes each other anywhere.
Anywhere, it's true. Anyway, Hector, wherever you are, I hope you're having a great time looking at cool, awesome devil masks. And keep those tabs going, buddy. All right. Email number 2. We also have an international one. It's Shalene from New Zealand, which I believe the pronunciation is Shalene because it looks like Charlene without an R. So I apologize if it's not pronounced as Shalene, but that's my best approximation. So Shalene writes, Kia ora, Hannah and Kaveh. Greetings from New Zealand.
Cool.
This is less of an internet tab and more of a tab I can't close in my brain. I thought you would like this one, Hannah, which is why I wanted to read this one.
Okay.
It's a tab I can't close in my brain. I most often have the joy of listening to you while I close up at the board game cafe I work at.
Oh.
Hannah said tab hole. Well, by the way, do you remember when we were in that board game cafe in Seattle?
Yeah. And we had to fake playing a game so they wouldn't kick us out?
And I was like, who are we going to fight with if they look at us weird again? There's some drunk guy who kept going over and talking to it, making passive-aggressive comments. And I was like, excuse me?
You're not playing a game. This is a board game cafe. And we're like,
I'm like,
shut
what are you,
up.
my mom? Shut up. Yeah.
So we went and grabbed a board game and like kind of moved the
pretended.
pieces. And yeah,
we're like, oh my God, we're playing. I'm like, we just did a convention. We're just trying to catch up and there's only chairs here. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Hannah said tab hole while I was rinsing dishes, and I heard tadpole, which spurred images of your tabs as baby frogs swimming around.
Cute.
The more you explain your tab, the bigger it grows until you finish the episode with 2 fully formed tab frogs.
We raise them.
By the way, that squeak, amazing. I don't think I've heard you squeak like that before. Like a tadpole.
I got really into the idea of tiny little frogs.
As you talk, the frogs take on characteristics from the stories you're telling. So I have quite a cast of characters hopping around up there.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Sometimes your stories blend together to make one big frog. Like last week, you had a frog that looked suspiciously like a tortoise with a Hitler mustache in a large trench coat with lots of pockets for stealing things from Air Force One.
Shailene, I love you. This is beautiful.
One of us.
What?
Very much one of us.
Oh, totally.
It's fun to see your tabs growing from tadpoles to beautiful, weird frogs. Now, every time I do the dishes, whether I'm listening to your lovely podcast or not, I think of tadpoles. Thanks for keeping me company while I straighten board game shelves and put up chairs. Love the podcast. Keep it Josie. Shailene.
Oh, thank you, Shailene. What would the frog for this episode be? I mean, for sure Lord. The frog would have one of those skin
the meat
eyebrows.
Flap.
Yeah, the meat flap eyebrow. Meat flap. It'd be wearing like old timey running shoes.
It's ingesting. Yeah, it's got the cutoff shorts, like the never nude wool shorts. Yeah, ingesting rat poison the entire time,
and drinking brandy.
It's actually growing in instead of like a pond, it's just a bunch of brandy that's swimming around in.
Yeah. And it's looking through a telescope. I don't know.
Yeah, it's looking through a telescope
with the skin flap. Yes. Oh, I love this. I want to go through all the episodes and figure out what the frog looks like.
The frog. That would be a fun little...
Imagine the werewolf episode. Just like a frog
Peter Stump.
with a belt. With a belt, yeah.
Peter Stump frog. Yeah, the frog wearing a belt that turns into a frog tadpole. I don't know. I'm sorry, tadpole werewolf. This is getting crazy. That's probably our sign to end this. Tadwolf.
Probably.
Thank you for your emails. If you guys have an email that you'd like to submit and have us read on the show, please go ahead and email us at 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500opentabs. Let us know your blurb about what you learned, the link to the article, of course, and tell us where you're from, because now we've got a friend in Chile and a friend in New Zealand, which is exciting, and we'd like to know where you guys are.
Yeah, and if you want to support us on Patreon, right now we have a Patreon. It's purely donation only, but we are working on a lot of fun things for it, so please help us pay our editor.
Please help us. Please. Give us money.
Turns out this is a lot of work. I thought it would just be a fun thing.
It's fun work, but it's so quite
fun,
a lot of work.
When we're like, oh, okay. But yeah, we can cut that part out. But yeah, if you want to support us financially, that'd be awesome. Looking forward to some fun Patreon things. Or follow us on YouTube, right?
YouTube, this is a video podcast. If you didn't know that by now, go check it out. You can see our terrified expressions of joy or sadness or anger or mostly
disgust.
Anger. Disgust and anger, I think, is mostly what we do. We got a Discord. Discord's popping off. It keeps going. People keep talking about stuff. They're forcing us to start musical tabs that they have to talk about musical stuff, and they really like it and they're excited, and I'm just happy that they're there.
We had to make a different chat room for musicals and linguistics.
That's another one. And then there's Fry Sauce Freaks, which I still don't really understand what the hell that was all about.
I'll tell you right now. It's Fry Sauce is Utah's specialty dipping sauce.
Okay, if you want to learn about dipping sauces and musicals and linguistics.
From Utah or Idaho, or the Fry Sauce Belt is what I'm going to call it.
The Fry Sauce Belt. You can learn more about it. We also have 500 Open Roads, which is our Google Map thing that places all the events that we've talked about on a map, which encourages you to hopefully do a road trip to go see it and listen to the corresponding episode on it. Of course, follow us on socials. I'm at PermaFriends on Instagram. You are
at Hannah Hillam
on everything,
and we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con at the end of last weekend of July. So I think it's the 25th, starting the 25th.
I think it's the 23rd is preview night. We should have probably pulled
the 24th.
24th. That's definitely what I said the whole time. I was right. Yes, you're right. 24th is when it begins.
Yeah.
We'll be there that whole week. We'll be in Artist Alley. We will see if we have other stuff to announce.
Booth BB01 and 2.
O2. Yeah, we're neighboring. We're right on the end. Over by the
Tower of T-shirts.
Tower of T-shirt, assuming it's there again. I don't know.
The Funko Pop area, anyway.
Yeah, the Funko Pop. Anyway, come see us. Is there anything else?
Yeah, pre-order my book, Cat People by Hannah Hillam.
The book. Yes, pre-order that book. And I guess that about does it. We'll see you guys next week. I'll have the second part of the Great Moon Hoax. Hannah will have another thing. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah. See you next week. And keep it Josie.
Keep it Josie. Oh, wow. We actually had an ending.
Yeah. Weird. Bye.